Hey y'all, this is Jessica with Bless Your Heart. Let's do a Northern Lights tumbler today. We're going to start with a prepped and spray painted 30 ounce from Maker Flow Craft. And I mixed up a little bit of epoxy. And the micas I'm using are going to be from Love All Bling, Blue Angel, and Mint. We've got the Glitter Guy Pink. We're going to use something from Amazon that's just kind of like a shifty purple. We're going to end up using Simply Sarah's Dyson and Glitter Heart Co. Smokestack. I'm going to start with a thin layer of epoxy. This is just Fast Set from Flynn Sisters Supply Shop. Once I get that all done and I'm happy with the way that looks, I'm going to go on to my micas. And I'm just going to go color to color. I'm going to use this spoon and kind of just drop this mica color by color wherever I want it to go, and we're going to see what we end up with. As you can see, there is absolutely no rhyme or reason to this mica placement at all. We're going to go in and kind of smear it here in just a second. You can use any colors you want. I just kind of Googled Northern Lights, and these were about the colors that I saw in most of those, but you pick out whatever colors you want. I'm going to end with the darkest, which is this kind of shifty green black. And once I get all of this mica on, I'm going to take one of these little silicone brush tools, and I'm just going to go in one direction and kind of smear this on. Smear it all the way up, and that's going to drag those micas into the epoxy and give you kind of that glowy look, I guess. Once you're happy with how that looks, just let your tumbler turn until it's dry enough to move on to the next step. For me, the next step is going to be adding some more micas. I am not completely happy with the way that this looks, so I've got another thin layer of Fast Set on here, and I'm going to go in with that Dyson again. And I'm going to kind of place this where I think the colors are just a little too bright or a little too abrupt in their placement. I'm going to just put as much of this as I want or less of this as I want. And I'm going to use the exact same tool and kind of smear that back in again. This is where we're going to bring in that smokestack. This is kind of a very light, kind of airy, maybe a glitter flake. It's a super high sparkle, silvery kind of color. I wasn't real sure at first how I was going to like it, but it was already on there, so we're going to roll with the punches. But it ends up being exactly what the cup needed. So you just want to add your micas or your colorants and smear them on until you are completely happy with what it looks like. And then after that, we're going to do a very light sanding because we're going to move on to all of our vinyl work. For my vinyl stuff today, I found these mountain ranges on Creative Fabrica and this forest outline tree thing on Creative Fabrica also. These two pieces of the mountain range are cut the exact same way. One of them is just flipped the other way, so they kind of don't match up completely. I'm going to put my lightest gray in the further back, and I'm going to put it a little higher on the cup than normal. And I'm going to use the hinge method to lay this down on my cup and try my best to not get any lumps and bumps. I'm going to smooth this on with my fingers, and then I'm going to move on to my next vinyl. For the next mountain range, I am going to cover up that seam that we made, and I'm going to put this just a little bit different. I want there to be some movement and texture to both of these mountain ranges, and then I'm going to do the tree line on top of all of it. But the exact same thing, we're using the hinge method. We're pressing this on with our fingers, doing our best to not get any bubbles or creases, and then we're going to move on to our tree line. Once we're happy with that, I'm going to move on to our tree line, and I'm going to do the hinge method with this one. I did put transfer tape over all of this just to kind of keep those very delicate cut pieces of the trees where they're supposed to be. Now, I added a square on the very bottom of this because first I was going to put this a lot higher on the cup, but I do not want it that high any longer. So I'm going to end up cutting a ton of this off of the very bottom, and you can do that however you want, with your craft knife, with your vinyl edge trimmer, however you want to get the rest of that stuff off, or you can put this all the way high on the cup, whatever you want to do. But after I get this tree line done and put on the cup, I'm going to epoxy the entire tumbler until smooth. And here we go. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today. I hope to see you again soon. Bye.